a better world. And I love Joseph's quote about the wisdom exchange that goes on from teacher to student. Because without that exchange and that respect, that mutual respect that a student has for their mentor and that mentor shows for the mentee, without that, there really is no learning that goes on. And I feel like maybe if we could translate that into other mediums like textbooks, we could really get something done. I know when we're going about our lives, we hear all the time when the kids say, man, my parents just really get me. Did you hear that? I also hear students say, my teacher does everything perfectly. They know exactly how I learn, and they just love teaching me in that way. You don't hear that here? Or how about my politicians? Oh yeah, those politicians, they've got my best interests at heart. They really totally understand what I want. We might not hear a whole lot of that going on, unless you're part of the anomaly group. But it's really just no secret that as each generation goes on from one to the next, we have a harder and harder time relating and understanding one another. But to be fair, especially in terms of teachers and students, we're all working with a model that's just a little bit outdated. Okay. So, this whole education system that we've all passed through, no matter what age we are, and the reason I can say that is because it's been pretty much the same since the 1820s. Oh yeah, I said like 1820s, like a really long time ago. And that's because education as a system was really founded in response to industrialism. All of these upper class citizens suddenly needed us lower class people or middle class people to do work for them in a factory. They needed someone who was willing to do the menial task of standing in line and making sure products come out in time. To create a system of lower and middle class people who were educated was laughable before industry. People thought it was hilarious. Wow, why would we teach these people? They obviously can't learn. That's why they're low class, right? Once that mentality began to shift, then they started to create kind of a system that would promote people who understood how to follow a bell schedule, how to make sure that they were there on time, ready to go, to follow assembly lines, promote conformity, consistency. Isn't that what we want in our world now? Probably not. Our system hasn't changed much, but our students have changed drastically. Creativity, uniqueness, diversity are the most important qualities that we can instill in our children. And yet they're still kind of being taught in this system that was founded in the 1820s. One aspect more than any other. There we go. One aspect more than any other hasn't really changed, and that's textbooks. You know, more and more students are beginning to process information differently than we did when we were younger. This is the direct result of being the most information-stimulated and visually stimulated group ever known to mankind. This era is defined by its technology, and that's okay. What's incredible is that we've found a way to create devices that are intuitive to us. They perfectly merge data, problem solving, and they also merge just aesthetics. We love looking at these things. Why can't our textbooks be more like that? How many of you just love looking at your textbook? You just spend hours just like, oh, this is beautiful. I just want to stare at this all day. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, I don't really want to talk to you. I want to just enjoy my textbook. Kind of grateful it's not that way. But what's interesting is that textbooks were originally founded as a method of conveying information from one generation to the next. And what people would do is that they would take a textbook and they would write as small as possible because pages were very expensive. Now that we've mass-produced these textbooks and it's cheap and easy for us all to get our words out there, instead of updating this very wordy format, all we've done is digitize it to ebook or iBook format and throw in some fun pictures. Modernizing or digitizing an ineffective textbook can only help so much. What we need is three things in a textbook. We need it to be visually, aesthetically pleasing. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to be succinct and to the point. How many times have you heard that little meme, ain't nobody got time for that? Ain't nobody got time to read a textbook. That's thousands of pages long, full of information that students don't really need. Those did you knows and little fun tidbits that they think students are going to go, wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool. It's cool that I don't need that for the test. Students don't care about that. They want to learn. They really do. They want to learn, but they want to learn what they need to know. They want to succeed in a way that's meaningful. The third thing they need is that they need to be focused on problem solving. What good is a textbook if it gives you tons of information and teaches you just to memorize as much as you can? Then you take the exam and what happens? Boop! Deleted. Done. That is a part of my life I never want to explore again. I even had thoughts and dreams of burning my chemistry textbooks when I was in school. So I was like, oh, I am done, you are done, see ya. Over. It's a dream that I had, and of course I didn't do it because they cost like $300, and I didn't even flip that on Amazon and make some dough. Broke college students, what can you do? But it's just so much that's thrown into these textbooks. We can make it so much better for our students. And by making it better for them, you make it better for the teachers. You hear all kinds of things about education reform. Oh, this is what we need to do. We need better teachers. We need better this, we need better that. What if you just started at the textbook? Something fun that happens. So when I was younger, I was not a very good learner at all. I got by all the way until high school pretty much, just on memorizing, saying it right back verbatim, and then boop, deleting, done with that part of my life. You get about to high school doing that, which I think is sad in the beginning. But once you get to high school, people start to challenge you. They go, hey, you're almost an adult, you need to problem solve. Here's a problem, solve it. And all of a sudden you're going, I have to use that information that I learned? Oh gosh, sorry, nobody really told me that. So can we do a review? And unfortunately, you just don't learn as much that way. So what I decided to do while I'm reading these long lines of text, tell me if this is you. When you start reading and you get to the beginning of the sentence and you go, okay, reading, okay, you're starting to lose your grip a little bit of the information, and then you're just like, crap, let me just start over, and you go back. How many people have done that? I mean, it just happens all the time. And it discourages you. It kind of hits you right here, where you're like, oh man, I am not good at this subject. Because I try to read it, and it's just, what is this to me? What I decided to do was to draw what I saw. I would read a sentence part way, and with each little part, I would draw something. And somehow, some way, that made me able to process the information. I learned that my students are a lot like that too when I became a chemistry teacher. I know you're thinking, oh, chemistry teacher, put your hand down, hide. Because that's the kind of teacher who's going to be like, hey, I'm going to test you. Do you know this? And you're going to go, yeah. Somebody saved me. Chemistry is hard. It's a hard topic. It's abstract. It's not something that you can really say you interact with every day, even though you do. But you don't know that unless you know chemistry. It's a very strange topic, and that you can't visualize it because it happens on such a tiny scale. Again, going back to the whole abstract thing. So when people try to describe it, they start with this really long rambling of, oh, this is chemistry, this is why it's important. It goes on, and at some point your kids just kind of go, Facebook, Twitter, don't get my teacher, hashtag what's she saying? You know, that kind of thing. And it just makes sense to teach them in a way that they're familiar with, visually. Once I began drawing things for them to explain concepts, all of a sudden the intimidation factor of chemistry dissipated. All of a sudden, chemistry was like beautiful. It's accessible. It wasn't something like, oh, I'm a stuffy chemist who wears that lab coat, because I am, and I'm kind of mean when I'm a teacher. But you know, it's for their own good, of course. But it goes past that. It goes past that stereotype of a chemist who wears a lab coat, has no social skills, and lives in their head. It goes past that because of art, pictures, visualization. It allows everyone to relate to it. Everyone can relate to color. Everyone can relate to imagery. Allowing your students to visualize definitions in a way that's just pictures is such an easy thing to do. It really doesn't take that much time. You just think about the definition you want to give them, and you draw it. These concepts present new ways of memorizing, new ways of processing, and getting to those hierarchies of relearning things. Because that's all school is. We reinforce things. We reteach, and then they learn something new at the end. And they use that to reteach. That's how our system is still. And repetition is wonderful. But what's the point of repeating what they don't get? What's wonderful about art and illustrations is that it lets you show them the math. How many of you got to go to school and actually see the numbers get canceled out? You never see that. They just give you the answer and you're like, oh yeah, totally got how they got that. And you hope nobody notices that you're really confused. Creating a new language is kind of about breaking the barrier. We don't learn textually anymore. We really don't, as a society. It doesn't matter if you're 50 or 12 anymore. You grew up with a TV. We went from radio to TV. Now we're going TV to YouTube, and we just continue getting more and more modern, more and more visual. We need to do so much more than just catch up these textbooks. What we really need to do is prepare our students for a future that changes rapidly. We have no idea what the future is going to look like. Students entering school right now are going to retire in 2080. Who can even visualize what our world is going to be then? And we're supposed to prepare them. The burden falls on all of us to prepare them for this. So why not teach them how to problem solve, how to visualize, and how to express themselves in a language other than just text? This whole conference is about imagining worlds. I want you to imagine a world where teachers can teach the way students learn. Imagine a world where students' education is the first priority to a publisher, to an author, to a writer. Not just selling an expensive, heavy paperweight, but really selling something that's intuitive and useful. Give teachers the right resources, and you will see students blossom. Because it's amazing once you start illustrating how quick students really begin to learn. Thank you.